So welcome, and I would like to make this chat about hobbies. How about that? Because Tom, you were just telling us about.
I have a new hobby.
Yes, and
Yes.
Laith earlier was talking about a hobby that they had, and I also share the role playing. So I just want to talk about why we enjoy our hobbies and just have a positive conversation, if you don't mind me bossing you around. But yeah, Tom, please. Oh, sorry, were you going to say something, Laith?
No, I'm jiggy with it, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Go on.
Jiggy with it.
Get
Oh,
jiggy
no,
with it.
now you set her off. This is gonna be all about rap all hour.
Yeah, Tom, just can you repeat the information you gave us? Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to my son about what I might want for my birthday, and he got me a couple little things, and then I was perusing Amazon, as I sometimes do, for ideas for my consumptionist
Tendencies.
tendencies. Yeah, and I came across, and I've been thinking about this on and off for almost my whole life. Well, since I learned about it, probably in the '70s, about rock tumbling. Making sort of gem sort of things out of regular rocks. Certain regular rocks. And so he bought me a rock tumbler, and it's running in the background right now. And this is the third week I'm running it. It's on the medium grit. Actually, no, this is the fine grit. And there's going to be one more week of running it after this on polished grit.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the process for people who don't know.
Start
at the beginning.
Okay. It's rock tumbling, so it's a machine that tumbles rocks. Basically, it's a round canister that sits on rollers that are made to roll by a pulley system running off a motor, and it runs at a certain speed that's apparently set to provide the optimum spin rate to tumble the rocks correctly. And when you get the rocks that are supposed to work with it, and you put the rocks in this cup, and you add the certain amount of grit, abrasive, that with the water and the tumbling will erode the rocks into pretty stuff. You put that in, put a certain amount of water in, close the top very tight. You close the top,
Important.
close the inner top tight, close the outer top tighter, and put it on the rollers, turn it on, and then it just runs for a week. It's sitting in the background. It was intrusive. The sound was intrusive for a while, but now it's sort of like a
static noise.
Perking. No, it's kind of like a constantly perking coffee pot.
Oh,
the old
okay.
percolators, or like something boiling, like a cauldron boiling on the background, like you're going to make spaghetti or something. Okay, I just got something else going on for a second.
That's okay.
Anyway, and it's like white noise. It's not bad. And this is the only place I can have it because my apartment is so small that the alternative is put it in my bedroom.
Okay.
No, don't do that. God almighty.
And that is even though it's white noise, it would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
So if anybody hears it and it drives them nuts,
they can deal with it. Yeah. That's fine.
Does the sound go weird for a minute there?
You kind
anybody else?
Your screen broke up a little bit, so maybe there was just a bit of broadband drop or something in quality.
All right. Before you leave me, I still have your attention, and everybody should focus on me all the time, of course. My internet, ever since there's a tornado near here about a week ago, and our internet was out for more than a full day. And when it came back, it's been wonky. So if I drop out, it's almost certainly not because I hate you. That would be a separate issue. And I do, of course. But if I just suddenly I'm not there anymore. Probably the screen will freeze.
Okay.
That'll be what it is, and I'll have had my time with you this month. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's my experience. That's my current hobby, and each time I take it out, the 2 times I've taken it out and seen where the rocks are, the difference is fairly dramatic, and the stones are already looking. Some of them are really very pretty.
Now, you already said that there's a rough grit, a medium grit, and then a fine grit. Is there a super fine, or is it just goes up to fine?
There are 4. There's a I can't remember the name of it, but it's a rough grit, really coarse grit, medium grit, fine grit, and then a polished grit.
Oh, right. Okay.
And in fact, there are different kinds of polished grit, and the kind that I got with my kit is probably not very good. So I got a separate set of grits, and one of the and the finished grit in the pack I got, the second pack I got, is probably the kind that I'm going to use to get the that sort of really smooth, like looks
Glass.
like it was like it's glossy
Liquid.
and in water and that kind of stuff. If the next one doesn't work to get that, I'll run them for a while with the different grit. So
Yeah. Did you take pictures on your like Facebook or post or anywhere and posted like various stages of the original?
I did that for the first grit.
Okay.
I didn't do it, to show the rocks before I started, but I do have some rocks that my son also gave me that show the kind of condition the rocks were in before. So I had a sort of before and after, and I did that 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, and I didn't do it for the middle. This last time I took them out and redid the container because there wasn't a whole lot of difference.
Okay.
I mean,
Was it as noticeable?
There's such a dramatic difference from the first one.
Because of the rough.
Yeah. Because the rough grit really knocked it off.
Okay.
To look very nice. So.
Cool.
And I got lazy. mainly I was lazy. That's the thing.
And also I wanted to ask, because I know, so my little background in this is, I remember I was still living in Wisconsin, so this must have been somewhere around 2000, and the person I was a partner with at the time, we had a condo together, and it must have been like a flea, not a boot sale, we call it a flea market, or something like that, where there was like a really old one, like from the 1970s. It was heavy. It was like had a really like thick cord, and it was not new. It had a bit of rust on it, but we thought it would be fun, so we got it and used it. And I think we only had 3 powders, and I remember there being some difference. But I also remember there's certain kind of types of rock that work best with it, and other ones that don't work at all. And it brought me back to geology class. I think sedimentary isn't great, and also maybe granites are too hard. So yeah, could you remind me of the kind of rocks, or what kind of rocks did you end up? Did you pick them yourself? Did you go out in the back field? Did you? Or did you go to a store where there are quartz and you want to, shape it a bit more, or what? What did you do?
Came with the machine.
Oh. The rocks would be like
and as I said, my son also bought me another box of rocks that I'm when this is done I'll start doing those. And I'm also going to buy interestingly enough, I'm also going to buy the next thing that I buy is going to be a selection of petrified wood.
Oh,
I think it's going to be really kind of cool. But no,
I was going to ask if you've looked at getting Pyrax, because that's a good kind of glass. It's glass it's the glass that they use on like skyscrapers and stuff like that, and it's like it's really really high level, really strong and everything. And people have been able to like smooth it out on rock tumblers to make them into really cool, very resplendent shapes.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. I do have some Pyrex. I would have to break my measuring cups to.
Don't do that, dude. Give them to me rather than that. Fucking hell.
No. I'll come over this afternoon. You can, you can give me metal cups or something. I have metal cups. That's measuring cup.
I have broken plastic ones.
you got.
You can have them.
You can ship them over to you.
I bought them from a pound store.
Yeah, and they're probably metric, so it wouldn't help me at all.
Couldn't read it.
Yeah, maybe.
No, because I'm American and we don't
really
know
speak
things.
Imperial.
Yeah, we don't know things. Yeah, we fought a whole fucking revolution to get away from the English system, and we're still the only ones in the world, only major country in the world on the English system. No, I've collected over the years to do stone tool making. I've collected obsidian, which is volcanic glass. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking about trying that to get to what you're talking about, Christy, about what rocks work and what don't. I think there are two different issues. One is hardness, and you want a hardness. I'm thinking on the Mohs scale, from about 5.5 to 7 or above. So that's hardness, but then you also have friability. You have, some rocks are very hard, but they break apart easily. Mm-hmm. And you don't want rocks that break apart easily because they'll just, crumble in the tumbler. So there's, things like good things would be agate and some quartz, probably obsidian, glass, some glass, the harder glass, and then the obviously the things like jasper and all the really cool stuff, aventurine, and I'm trying to think what I have in my tumbler right now. Tiger's eye.
Oh right,
just a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So a bunch of semi-precious then.
Yeah. And I got a book. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can. How to tumble polished gemstones. Yeah.
Yeah. This is from the 1970s.
I can tell. I can tell that picture.
Yeah. Look, the gal in the
oh,
Christmas
lift it up
sweater.
a little bit higher. Yeah, I could only see the. Oh yeah. Yeah. Like those haircuts. They're very Prince Valiant.
Yeah, this is very much my style. So this kind of you get this kind of stuff. Just I grew up with this being the kind of informational magazines that are booklets that I would get, and that's very much my speed and style.
Yes.
But I have the kits that I get from National Geographic is where these kits come from. Come with a couple different kinds of jewelry settings, and you can get other jewelry settings and make jewelry out of them. So I'm probably not going to do that because I don't know of anybody except maybe me who would wear a rock as jewelry.
Yeah.
Although maybe I'll make some earrings or something like that and send them to people that wear earrings, which is not so far me.
Well, you can beat them together as a little headband.
Oh yeah, well yeah, maybe. Or as a necklace.
Yeah, choker.
Like a puka bead sorts of thing. Not puka beads, but like a beaded. Yeah. Anyway, I could pretend to be a caveman.
There you go.
Just learning fashion, which would fit very well. Anyway, that's me. That's me rambling about my.
Yeah, well, that's right. I'm going to move on to lathe next.
Dude, I'm liking hearing about this kind of stuff. I've got a bunch of mates over here who they make dice sets and stuff like that, and they use rock tumblers as well to kind of like round off the edges because they always wind up being real rough. And like honestly, I don't know how they do it because a lot of their stuff's made out of plastic. But yeah, don't be feeling all like sideways about it. It's all right. I love hearing about all this stuff. But yeah, my stuff. I paint. I'm very bad at it, but I paint.
All right.
I also model, but that's really hard to do right now because I got no room. But yeah.
Yeah. So when you paint, like, what kinds of material? What is your favorite thing to, like, what do you?
I prefer using acrylic.
Okay. Why?
So because it's cheaper.
Okay. That's simple.
So yeah, it's really that simple. Like for the amount of money that I can buy, like this is a paint pot. Yeah, and it costs about £3, as opposed to buying oils, which can go into the tens for that much paint. So it's just like a money proposition, really. Yeah, I mostly do on like I've worked on card recently. Me and my friends, we've kind of gotten into painting miniature people. Yeah.
Painting miniature.
But I do have like acrylics that I've made elsewhere that I make on card. Yeah, like it's all to do with just it being a bit fun and all it being a bit like a waste of time kind of stuff. Like the stuff that I've been kind of working on is like when I was real young, I kind of had this thing of I'd lose interest in doing anything that I wasn't immediately good at, because when I was bad at it, I was really, really fucking bad at it. So I'm talking about like art class. The teacher legitimately just said you can sit down and play, like tic-tac-toe on your thumbs because you can't paint, you can't draw or nothing. So now that I'm older, I can kind of work on it. So it's
more
like
patience.
It's like doing it to cut. Yeah, do it to keep calm, do it to keep okay. Yeah, and like that's kind of what I do. I also this is the one that I've been doing for a good longer. I've been storytelling, which plays into role-playing games. But yeah, like mostly we do like storytelling things, and yeah, like having good bits of fun with mostly the role-playing, because I'm secretly a gambling addict waiting for my big break. But in the meantime, I'll just roll a d20 and hope it works.
Yeah, speaking of d20s, I'll ask you more about it, but I had to get dice for the games. Well, I decided because I wanted to try DMing, and it's just I can't do everything online, and so I got some nice. I don't know if you can see that, but there we go. No, my hand's in the way. I'm just doing everything wrong here. This is my favorite ones. They're purple, and they're super. Oh, there we go. Like shiny, and they have different depths to them and different levels.
I really like the. That's one like this shows how much I'm in on it. That's the Galactic.
Oh, the
set.
Series.
Yeah, it's actually got like a straight up name, and like all my mates talk about how they do different ones.
Yeah,
I really like them. They're nice.
I do, and I just pulled out the purple ones because that's my favorite set. But yeah, the range of colors on these is really nice. You get some nice greens, and some nice blues. It's not really. Is the camera zooming at all, or is it just fuzz? I don't even know. I think
it's going a bit fuzz, but when you keep it in place for a bit,
hold it for a sec. Got it. Okay, there.
Oh, you're holding it a little. There you go.
All right. There's two cameras on me. There's the OBS camera, and then there's the. So, but thank you for that feedback. I need it. I know now. I know exactly where to put it to have it in both ones.
Oh,
so,
okay. That looks like my tiger's eye.
Yeah. I don't have a red. Didn't grab a red one, but here's a red one, for instance. So, yeah, that's So it's you actually know the brand set.
Getting dice is really, really good. There was like I'm in with like some of the like independent creators and stuff like that. People who like make role-playing books and stuff like that. And they there was a good like 3-4 years where they legitimately were saying like, yo, if you want to buy a gift for somebody, just get them some dice. Like, people love dice. They appreciate getting shit tons of dice, and it's all good. Don't worry about it over much. And then there's like a cavalcade on like February where it's like, yo, you told me to buy some dice, and it was a great gift. Thanks for the recommendation. Yeah, like it's good.
Good.
Yeah, you get all kinds of really good ones. You go on like a Kickstarter or like any crowdfunding sites, you know, you can get like people who are selling metal die and bespoke uber fair dice, which is a con. No, don't bother with
don't
it.
buy that. They also give you like the boxes that they come in that you can roll in, so they don't go everywhere. Yeah, whole dice industry, you know.
No, it legitimately is. Like, I got a friend of mine here. She does all the stuff in like semi. I do believe it is like all of it's semi-precious. So everything's in amethyst. Everything's in a topaz or something like that. You know, it's great.
Wow.
Yo, Joe.
Hello. Hi, Joe.
I'm having to just adjust the screen. Because I'm floating in the OBS screen, so it's a little bit weird, but that's okay. It works out. It's just fine. Actually, I can probably take the time now to readjust these so that I'm more. No, that's worse. Okay, I've got, like I said, the Hangout camera, which is at one angle, and then the OBS one, which is at a different one. Let's see. Anyway, so role playing and storytelling. I will fix it in the chat. Don't worry. I see what the problem is. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I was going to say my son is heavy into role playing games. He's DMing Starfinder is this game now.
Oh, right.
And he's been to conventions. He's played with I think the creator of Starfinder is in the game with that person. And he's got tons of dice. I have tons. I don't play games. At least not about once a year I get them out and I start something and I don't have any way to play with. It's not fun, so I put them back. But I have a really nice little brass Indian brass jar with the metal top that I keep my die in, and I've asked for dice for birthdays. The one die that I want that I don't have is a D120.
Oh,
because that I think is the biggest one that they have now.
Wow!
Yeah, it's the biggest. It's the biggest approximate one. Yeah.
I don't think it can. I can't see them
More
getting
sides?
much bigger because it's almost smoothly round. I can't see it.
This is the wonders of a D100.
Oh,
all right.
Yeah.
So the one that you've got is a percentile set.
Looks like a Death Star.
Okay. So it is a bouncy ball with little ball bearings inside, and I mean it's going to be really hard to kind of describe it over the camera. But rather than a normal die where it lands on the flat, and you kind of like read it on the opposite flat, this is pitted. There are loads and loads of little divots, little pits that are made, and the holes are what make the numbers work. It's an atrocious dice because it's all about the ball bearings, and if the ball bearings get stuck anywhere, it just goes around in circles. Like I have legitimately rolled this off of a building, and it still didn't roll a 20. Yeah.
I can't believe you rolled it off a building. First story?
It's very nice. It's very it's just that it's like it is. It looks spherical. It's kind of is spherical, and we legitimately were kind of like the thing that they do about it here. It's written on patent number, but it also says high durability, because the thing about these is because they're hollow. You chuck them, they'll break, So somebody was like, okay, we're drunk, we're stupid, we're under the age of 25. Let's see what happens. And yeah, we just took it up to the roof of the dorm that I was in and rolled it out the window.
And you found it. That's also impressive. It survived and you found it.
Yeah, it was all right. No, it's good stuff.
Oh my God. I moved out of a place that I lived for like 10 years, and I swear I found like 45 dice just that were just gone to the world when I finally moved.
Yep.
So do you game at all, Joe?
Oh God. I started when I was 20.
Okay.
So I've been gaming for about 20 years
Oh,
now.
excellent. Wow, that's okay. We're gonna talk about
Including
yeah. Go ahead.
including a set of online games that I have been the dungeon master, storyteller, and game master, as I've done different systems and they have different titles for about 15 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't realize how many other grown-ups gamed because so my background is I think I got into D&D via Dragonlance. I think it was also during like the Satanic
books.
Panic. Yeah, the book series. So I fell in love. I remember the first thing I bought that was really swords and sorcerers was a choose your own adventure, and it had some sort of blue cover on it. And the first time I tried reading through it, I got killed by a green ooze. Like I have very clear memories of these things.
Shit! That's going to be from the old. Literally, it was called like Old Swords and Sorcery. It was by Peter Jackson, wasn't it?
I don't remember. I remember a little bit about the art cover. You know, I wasn't really into authors when I was that age. I was more like all about the stories. They just happened for me. And then Dragonlance. I got completely consumed by the Dragonlance world. And then at the local, at this time I was probably like 12 or 13. And in Fond du Lac we had Walden's bookstore. Tom might remember Walden's books.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if they're still around.
I also remember Walden's.
Oh yes, of course, because you've got the Wisconsin connection. And
not only that, that's the city I lived in for the majority of my early
growing up years,
adolescence, adulthood.
Yeah, yes. So Fond du Lac Mall, Walden Books, and they had a couple of the things with D&D like adventures and stuff. And I didn't have that much money to spend, but I got a couple of them. But I didn't know anybody who really played at that point, so I just read them like as entertainment and learned like all the spells and second levels and things. Then I remember I met a group. I got this like one friend of mine wanted to game and two other guys in high school. So for a while, Keith, maybe his name was. This is going back a long time ago. Like three of us in the party and one person DMing. And then again, I didn't have another opportunity until college. And then I kind of fell in with another group that gamed. And then since like the 90s, I hadn't had anyone. And then weirdly, it was V who invited me to a Pathfinder game. And then Chrisiosity said, I really want to do gaming with lefties. That's like, and I was like, yeah, I'm there. Yeah. And it's been ever since. And I'm really, now I'm to the point where like, during the lockdown, I got the player's handbook, I got Xanthar's Guide to Everything, I got the DM book, and I also got the monster manual. And because I want to run my own game now at some point if I'm brave, because like 5e, it's actually 5e's not that complicated, and there's a lot of things I like about 5e. But there's a lot of rules, like what can you do when someone's grappled, and how do you fight underwater and stuff. But I did just order this, which is 10 adventures that are kind of pre-planned that you can then customize a little bit. So I'm sure there's a lot of free ones too, but I just thought, I'd pay for it because I can.
Sly Flourish is a really good lad. I really like his work.
Okay, good. I picked a good one.
Like he's been working at that stuff for years and years and years, and he's one of the old grognards. He's like really, really nice. Okay. He's got a book that's legitimately called "The Lazy DM Strikes Again." How to make people think that you're a genius without doing anything whatsoever, and it's I love it. He's a good guy.
Yeah. So I guess Joe, if you want to tell us a little bit, like I want to know why you like gaming. I was going to ask Laith because I asked you about your hobby, but what do you like about role playing? What is it about it that keeps you coming back? And then I'll ask Joe.
So the big one is that it's just unique. It's a very different way of doing things. I write a lot. I read a lot, and there's just another way that it can feel interactive without it having been so permanent. It's like ephemeral because you're sitting around and you're telling a story with your mates. I mean, you don't always do it with your friends. You do it with strangers a lot.
Yeah,
but you can. But it's like it's a good bit of fun with that. And then it's kind of like it can become loads of different things. You can have loads of different reasons for why it can be enjoyable. You can do it for the sheer hell of like loving telling a story in a particular way. It can be cathartic. Like there are a lot of people who I've met who have like worked through like psychological old school trauma, like really bad stuff, through
Their character.
the effort of through their character and through like those things. That's cool.
Yeah. But how about you?
I am. I mean, I've done that, but also I enjoy. I enjoy the improv side of things. I enjoy a lot of it as well. There is nothing quite so much as putting a lot of effort into building a character who can beat the crap out of somebody in a very specific way, and then you just have lots of fun, just like
doing that,
getting one over and on the game master and stuff like that. So one of my favorite things is like to the side of everything, but there is a game called Shadowrun. It is cyberpunk, so think Blade Runner but magic. And in Shadowrun, you can legitimately be like a vampiric troll, who is a literal vampiric troll, who is forever connected to the internet, and is nigh on indestructible, because even if you killed him, which you can't do because he's a troll and thus resistant to most forms of damage, he will just upload himself to the internet and become a ghost. Like, at which point does the GM just kind of go, okay, I give up on your bullshit, dude. And like most recently, a thing that I've been enjoying a lot is like playing with people who are very quick on the uptake. Like lots of people like playing very staid things. My friend describes it as, we're going to kill a dragon and save a princess. The dragon can be any gender, and the princess doesn't have to be a princess. But I want to kill a fucking dragon and save a fucking princess. Okay, guys? And, he's jiggy with that. And, that's pretty cool. But like what I generally have been doing recently is a lot of very improvisational stuff, very, very quick, very fast-paced stuff. So yeah, it sometimes feels like playing Ocean's 11, where we've got to outthink each other. No, that's fun. That's a good bit.
All right, thanks for that. Hey, okay, so you've been doing it for a long time. Obviously, you keep coming back, and there are different games that have different elements. So yeah, talk about why you love it. And what you love about it, and which ones you love the most.
There's a couple of things. I thoroughly enjoy doing the game master portion of it, because I enjoy telling stories but don't have the ambition and discipline to actually like compile and write them most of the time. So it's a really good creative outlet for that. And also I've been, it started with video games, and actually that was my introduction to pen and paper gaming. I had just purchased now I can't remember Vampire the Masquerade Redemption.
I actually played Vampire the Masquerade, by the way.
Dear.
Yeah.
And in that computer game, there was an advertisement for the pen and paper game that the systems and the game was essentially based off of in the back. And one of my coworkers, high school or anything like that, it just didn't play out that way, probably because Magic was the big thing then. But
Magic the Gathering. Yep. Yep. I had Oh, it's all coming back now. All these memories.
Being part building clever encounters, be they combat, social or puzzles or figuring out how to do a heist, that sort of thing. It's social collaborative storytelling. It's just really fun.
Yeah. So it's been very useful during the pandemic to have something. I don't know if must have been 3rd edition, probably, I guess, in the 90s. Does that sound about right time-wise?
Pretty much, yeah. 2000 was when 3rd edition kind of came into being.
Yeah, I'll say it would have been, if it was
late
actually
90s.
The 90s, it would have still been
2nd edition, maybe?
It still would have been 2nd edition,
okay. Yeah, because
Advanced, it was called as well.
AD&D? Yeah, AD&D. I remember that. And I don't think, I don't know if we had, like, even rogues then. I think they were still thieves kind of thing, like really old school. And the game has changed so much, and there's so many different the racial abilities are just wider. Like you can be so many more things that I just never experienced before. And so when I went in, I kind of went with stuff I knew. So initially I went with clerics because I had a frame of reference and I could pick up the game pretty quick. But now what I really like doing is just deep diving different classes and their abilities, and of course there's the feats as well. And for me, it's like based on, I also like to know what the general feel of the world is going to be, because if it's going to be an underwater game, I'm not going to do something with no water abilities. You kind of want to have a character that can operate in the world that you're in. And so for me, it's like a puzzle of, okay, so if I do this combination of, half elf or whatever the race I pick, and this class, and then, these kind of benefits and this feat, then how can it's not just about like building up different parts of it. Like I think my favorite character is the one I've been playing the longest with, is Elsbeth. And she now, I love optimizing her ability, her various movements. This is going to sound so sad, but you get a free action, a bonus action, an action in your movement. So you can do 4 things in a round. And if I'm not doing 4 things, I feel, well, at least 3 things, I feel like I've wasted part of my turn, which isn't always reasonable, but I do feel like that. So, right now I can layer on. So I've sort of like worked her out a little bit so that not only does she do stuff, but it builds on each other. So in the first round, she'll cast probably Bless, unless there's going to be close combat, which is, so if she has a Bless spell, then she's concentrating on blessing everyone else. Then she'll do Spiritual Weapon, so that she can get an extra attack on her bonus round while she's doing other attacks. But my favorite now is she's got Spirit Guardians, which is a 15-foot radius of like anyone who comes within 15 feet of her just takes a zap of energy. So first round, Spirit Guardians, then Spiritual Weapon, and then she's just, I multi-classed her from Cleric into Druid so she can Shillelagh and have Thorn Whip as a cantrip, So she's got her spiritual guardian. So if anyone comes near her, they get a zap. And then she's got a quarterstaff with her shillelagh, which is a 1d8 instead of a 1d6 magical weapon. She's got a spiritual weapon she can also do as a bonus action. So she's got a magical weapon as her action, spiritual weapon as her bonus action, and just the ongoing other one. And then if she wants to, she can just do a cantrip to pull someone in to her spirit guardians, and like that makes me so happy. It's like a mechanical tinkering and optimizing that I really enjoy. And then in the games, go ahead.
No, that's like legit. What you're saying? Oh, it's so sad. It's not legit. That is like you are putting into practice the point of the game part of the role-playing game, and you're just, and it's all about like, it's okay, like, but admittedly I'm not the be-all and end-all when it comes to this shit, because lots of people talk on like Reddit and different forums and stuff about how we're supposed to play the game and how blah 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 whatever, but that there is fun to be had in being a brick shithouse of a character who legitimately is like yesterday. It's not even my Oh, sorry, dude.
That's a phone. I think it's okay.
Okay. Like there is power to, like, yesterday I was playing in a game, and this is 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons, which personifies what you're describing really well. Like it's that kind of thing. And one of my teammates is legitimately just this little dwarf fighter, which is pretty like bog standard in that game, who cannot be killed. he just can't be put down. You can stun him, you can prone him, you can take him down to 0 hit points, so he just gets the hell back up and he's fine. And that's just the power. He's built the character to be that good. And it's like, and like people can talk about, oh, it's not very fun, it's, you know,
it's broken,
it's very broken and stuff like that. But then that's where the fun of the role playing comes in, because from my perspective, you've actually, like, that guy, that dwarf dude is Thorfinn Clatterknuckle, the dwarf that just will not sit down. He just won't die, you know. And there's a power to that trope. There's the power of that trope is that, you know, the dude is just unkillable. That's it. And your character is kind of like, you've said that, like you said, it was you said that you've done cleric, gone into druid, and you said elf, correct?
Yeah, she's a half elf. Yeah,
half elf. Yeah, like there is a power to there's a power to that trope. That trope is a very, very incredible thing. The person who is like this whirling dervish of doing what needs to be done immediately with no kind of like questioning or indecisiveness or anything like that. There's power to that, you know. My character, like a character that I've been playing most recently that I'm reasonably proud of, is based entirely around their constitution stat, which is 4. And they are a monk, dude. They are a monk who has a constitution of 4 and rolled very well on health, so they've got like maximum health, even though they've got the -3 and everything. And like they fight like they're playing like this. The trope is called the broken sage. It's the concept of being like somebody who's spiritually enlightened, but your body is broken as a result. Yeah, Raistlin Majer or Yoda, or, you know, any of these kind of things. And, you know, like that's the trope. That's the power of it. That's the benefit.
In the role they play.
Your story of the unkillable fighter reminds me of the most broken character I've ever built was also in 4th edition. It was the Paladin Defender, and I picked up like every feat for damage mitigation, one for any time anything that I had marked hit me, I got temporary HP back. And because he was Dragonborn, he was able to use racial power that allowed him to mark with his breath weapon. And in general, oh my god, not only was this character unkillable, it was damned hard to even do HP damage to him, because with all of his mitigation and the fact that every time something hit him, he regained temporary HP back. Essentially, it was hard to even get through the HP on top of his hit points to even do damage to him.
No.
Oh, man.
4th edition is an interesting game.
Yeah.
Hated by many, and even the people who love it hate it, but yeah.
It's poorly designed for the really story heavy game, but then again, in general, Dungeons and Dragons isn't built well for that compared to a lot of other systems that use abilities for the players to actually affect the narrative, like affect objects and that in the narrative, like the Fate system, the Amber system, and I'm trying to remember the third one, but 4th is like a fantastic system for building really good encounters.
For good fights, I think Curiosity does a good job of kind of balancing the social and the mystery. So there's an overarching thing, and then she uses whatever random stuff that she was not prepared for us to do to, like, you know, find ways of adapting it into the story. So Tom, I guess you're probably, when you say your son games, you're probably used to him also talking about.
I was thinking that I was smiling, listening to you, because this is many dinners. Well, you know, I sat with my son and listened to exactly this kind of stuff. about whatever game he was playing at the time, and DMing, and he writes his own games, his scenarios. Not he doesn't invent games, but he writes the scenarios for the games that he DMs or GMs or whatever they're called.
Yeah, one's a game master, the other is a dungeon.
Given the system, whatever system he's playing. And this is many dinners with many different games, and the same kind of stuff, getting into all this detail. I had no fucking clue, and yet it's I'm enjoying the enjoyment of the person who is my son, and in this case you guys, just going on. And you, I don't know about you, Laith, but Christy and Joey, you're about my son, around my son's age. So a lot of the history you're talking about was kind of similar. Christy starting with Choose Your Own Adventure.
Yeah.
As a kid, that was my son was doing that. He got into. He was first introduced to Dungeons and Dragons when his mother and I were went to. We lived up near Hayward. So two of you know where that is, and on the sticks. We lived up that way, and we just happened to come across a couple that were into D&D. And we're just starting to get into D&D. So there are four of us who didn't know what the fuck we were doing, and we got the books and the sat down with paper. We played for maybe 4 or 5 sessions, but we had some of the books, and we talked about some of the stuff. My son was 5 at the time. And so we had some books. I think we bought the, this would have been 1980. Mm-hmm. So would that have been first edition?
Maybe second by that time?
I don't know. He got, I know that one of the first things he got was the AD&D stuff. So, and he got that when he was maybe 10 or so.
Yeah.
Getting into it when he could read and do this stuff.
So he found the books that you guys had and just started looking through them and self-taught, or?
Well, to a certain extent. And then, he had friends around him that were also into that. And they sort of taught each other, and he got into playing with his friends, and there was some people who, older kids that were more experienced with D&D, and he just got into it. And he was always interested in reading. He was always interested in writing, and he always was interested in writing scenarios about how this would work. Mm-hmm. And so he told stories with these game systems.
Yeah.
So it's like I say, it's kind of. I know you're adults, and you feel like you're adults, and sometimes you feel like you're achy and old.
Yes, am I too old for this?
No, not at all. What I'm saying is that from my point of view, it's like listening to my kid, and I listened to my kid as a kid, for the last 25 years 30 years talking about stuff like this in exactly this way.
Yeah.
So this is fantastic.
No.
Yeah. I think if I had found gaming before I decided to make a YouTube channel, I think I might have just been deep into the gaming community. Yeah. But yeah. I'd be on Twitch now instead. But yeah, Lathe, you're gonna say?
No. I'm just kind of thinking about it. It's like to do with like you guys are talking about it, and like you're relatively speaking, there's a lot of people, especially in role playing. And okay, so first thing you got to know is in my opinion, like role playing games, the concept of like communal storytelling is like a form of media on the level of like playing a video game or or reading a book, in my opinion, right? And I'm kind of like it really surprises me a lot that we have, relatively speaking, only lost a few members of like the luminaries of the field, the people who came up with it. So yeah, we've lost Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson, who are the two people who made D&D, but we still got around the people who made like World of Darkness, the people who made Warhammer as a concept, who wrote all these things. And we still have a lot of the people who were like, yeah, I was in the first friend group who started D&D in Illinois, or Lake Geneva, that kind of thing. And it always reminds me that, like, relatively speaking, we're in the beginning of the field, and that's really cool.
That's true.
And good to know that it came from Wisconsin. A lot of it came from Wisconsin.
Yeah, Lake Geneva. Woohoo! Yes, Wizards of the Coast and all that back. Yeah, I think for me too. What's because maybe I was young and I associated it with younger people playing. What I didn't quite appreciate, like why it would last so long, is I think you're at the storytelling. I also think that for me, it's just like I played Vampire, and I think I did a little bit with the Cyberpunk, but I just always come back to D&D. Maybe it's like a warm blanket or something. It's just a world that I just don't have to think about. It's completely, comfortable to me. But also the importance of the randomness of dice rolls, I think adds so much to it, because you can have the best plans in the world and everything ready, and then you have a bad roll, and it completely can change the entire course of that night or the entire adventure sometimes. And having that, like, it's kind of like being without a net. It adds a little element of uncertainty.
The runner's high that comes from being 2 beers down and rolling a natural 20 in the second session, and you immediately just go,
oh my God, it goes crazy at the table. And it's a group part of it too, right?
Yeah.
Or when you roll the one.
Yeah. You just
when I was a kid, what we had was for that kind of stuff, strategy games, for things like D-Day and what turned into Axis and Allies later.
Oh yeah,
like
that's great.
Tabletop games, and so some of what you're talking about, like Christy, when you say you can have the best plans and you get a bad roll, or the other team the other guy's side gets a good roll, and all of a sudden, oh fuck, now I just lost Normandy. It's I have some, that's sort of the, I think that's sort of the progression, or sort of it is the history of this kind of stuff, because Gary Gygax and the other guy were into tabletop battle, war games, and they figured a system that was based on that, but was more flexible and went into a different direction, and into fantasy and role, that kind of role playing. So I
just remember reading up on Blackmore, which was the first D&D world, and it's still going, and it's been going for like something like 40 odd years.
It's that Black Boar?
Blackmore. Blackmore. Yeah, it's been going for decades.
Okay.
And I'm just thinking about that. Yeah, like it grew directly from like those meetings at at the Lake Geneva Convention of tabletop wargaming.
Yeah, I watched a documentary about the history of D&D on YouTube, because like I said, when I start to get into something, I just deep dive it. Like I'll just consume, which was good again for escapism during the pandemic, the ongoing pandemic. But just how different the game was, like the fact that it was a standard practice that everyone just bought a 10-foot pole when you started playing the early games, because there were so many traps and the only way to find them was to like poke shit.
Yeah.
And also, sorry, if I could just add on that, that one game series that they put out there to like be at conventions, where it was incredibly difficult to make it through, and for a while it kind of set up almost like a natural adversarial position between the DM and the players, and I found that so anathema to what I experience now. And it was a function of that particular game, and that particular game being popular. It wasn't like D&D was set up to be that way. This just that one whatever impossible game was. But yeah, I think when I GM, I'm not, like, I suppose some people I've seen the channel where people tell the stories from the Reddit about various characters and various scenarios. I use it to fall asleep at night because it's great little bites of information. But yeah, I think as a GM, you want to like challenge your players so they feel like they accomplished something, but you don't want to feel like they're like you're out to get them. So, yeah, go ahead.
Have you ever played a game that was built for adversarial play, either between the players or the players and the DM, or a game where it was where the system is built. Essentially, the system is built to make a horror story that the players are supposed to lose.
No.
Oh yeah.
Paranoia and Cult of Cthulhu are the prime
Okay.
examples.
If I want to have like a 15 character sheets, just be like, okay, who am I going to pull out now?
No. Paranoia is all about you die. That's it.
Oh, okay. Goodbye.
And that's it.
You're out of the game.
I've played a version of Paranoia that each player had a certain amount of clones. I think it was 3 or 4, and it's essentially like all of the players are working for like opposing spy agencies, and it is legit. The game's purpose is, it's built as a role-playing game, but the game's purpose is to be the player that doesn't die last. And Call of Cthulhu is, essentially playing, Lovecraftian horror and just seeing how far you go before everyone dies or is proven mad.
Yeah. We've done some one-offs that I had characters I enjoyed playing and could say goodbye to them. But, I mean, it's actually kind of hard to die in 5e as well, I think, relatively to what I've seen before. And I had a character finally die, and I was like, okay.
Once you get a few levels in, it can be pretty hard.
Yeah, but I like that too, because I think it gives you time to get invested in the character and to know them, and And the other thing too that I like about it is it just like in a YouTube channel where if you watch somebody for a while or they have a chat interaction, they start to do, like Kevin and I, we do the bit, and Kevin does his penis jokes, and they're just things that become part of the culture. Like having a long-term group, Erasmus in our long-term game DM'd my Curiosity. There's a running joke that he is a shipwright who can't identify boats, and what's especially hilarious is when we have to do anything naval and he has a low roll because it just comes out again. And we just take the piss out of him.
And the sad, and I feel like that, this just kind of shows, like, this is proof that there ain't no intelligent design behind anything, because you kind of get, because like role-playing games which ostensibly require everybody to not die comes from a game which is tabletop wargaming, where by dint of the fact that you're playing with little toy soldiers, everybody is expendable. People, it was a thing that people for a good long while, I don't know if it was in that documentary, because I think I saw it, I've seen it.
You're the one I'm talking about.
But, yeah. It wasn't in that document. I think it was in something else. They did this big talk about how you need the players to basically be immortal, but the DM's job is to basically make things as difficult as possible, and to remove the stake of murder, to remove the stake of the players dying. It kind of becomes this big thing. And there was like this big problem of there is an adversarial relationship that you can't kill anyone with. And I feel like that's kind of like D&D especially, but role-playing games in general, they kind of stymied themselves for a little bit, because it took people a real long while to kind of be okay with the idea of rising stakes or using tropes or anything like that. They were all about like, okay, my job is to kill you guys. Boom.
Yeah, and I heard about these conventions, where people would come with literally a stack of pre-rolled characters that they would just plop back in. And I like the idea of the emotional investment and the building and the shaping of the character. Because honestly, if Elspeth ever died, I would be heartbroken. I would I would keep her character sheet and then look for excuses to bring her back. And that's what you want in a game, right? You want to build a character that it's sort of like, a different version of you, or it's a completely different thing that you grow to understand more, or things happen that shape it and it becomes very organic. And it's just like tending a garden. You tend your stats and you tend the character and you want to see the payoff. And if it just dies, you're like, no.
You have to be careful, though, Christy. You have to be very careful, because according to Jack Chick, if you die in the game, you're probably going to hang yourself in your bedroom.
Right. Yes. Satanic panic.
Yeah. Oh, also, just you were talking about something a documentary you saw about the history of D&D, Gary Gygax and folks. My son gave me a little comic book. No, the illustrated. What do you call them? The graphic novel of of the history of that history, actually, from beginning in the war games up through the way, and they lost control, and it went. There were people that were didn't like each other anymore, and then Gary died, and the end is sort of that whole thing in this graphic novel. So I don't know if that's something that's interesting to you. I can find out from my son what that was and get it to you.
So luckily there is a lot of discussion, and there is a lot of honesty about like what the history of these things are. Like I really appreciate those things. Like it sounds odd, but we don't know what the first video game is because no one bothered to archive it. But it's really cool that we're able to kind of like know the first character ever created for a role-playing game, which is Bigby, like from Bigby's Icicle Hand. Like that is the first. That's the first character. Blackmore is the first setting, and like it's good that we have that history, because I'm a history nut, and I love it. I love knowing that there was an internecine war going on between Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson that resulted in a practical fist fight at the 7th Gen Con. That was great. I liked it. I like it.
Ooh.
I like hearing about that.
By the way, Rory Katz is in the chat saying we've forgotten Ed Greenwood, who created the Forgotten Realms.
Oh, fuck me. Yeah, Ed Greenwood was great. He's a lovely man. I got to chat with him for like 20 minutes on a live stream, on a like a hangout type thing, and he's a lovely man. He was and I just kind of like told him, because he recently created like a cross media like new adventure series, new this, new that, and I was like, I'm really happy that it's kind of a thing. And he was like, oh, it's really good. What do you do? And I was like, yeah, I've written my stuff. I've released some things. I'm doing freelance and shit like that. And he was like, oh wow, send it over to me, it'd be great. I was like, oh man, can't you be my dad?
Adopt me.
Adopt me, man. You're so lovely.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm really glad that I can still do this as a tax-paying, salary-earning, PhD-having grown-up, because I think I think that it's like what Dara Abrian says about video games. As you get older, like the more often people kind of like, it's less embarrassing to tell people that you masturbate to pornography than to tell them you play video games after the age of 40. And he says that actually the conversation is quite the same. I haven't done that since my teens. You should really check it out. It's really moved on. But I come at it with such a different perspective now as a grown-up, and far more tactical, and it's a completely different game from how I kind of played it as a teen. So yeah, there's a real richness to it, and I'm glad that other people are as geeky and love it as much as I do. So I'm actually going to try to keep this one to about an hour. Sorry, just because it's been a long week and I did a couple things. But before I wrapped up, I just kind of want to let it come to a bit of a natural end. Like if you were going to say, I know. You know what I actually really love hearing, which, the animated D&D stories on YouTube, which, yeah. Of course you guys do. Tom, if you ever want to just check something out on YouTube, animated D&D stories, they're like little 5 to 10 minute stories about like little dramas that happen in games. And even though you don't know the people or anything, you get totally caught up in it. But what I want to hear is how my players effed up my game. Seriously. So have you guys either of you run games? I know you said you did, Joe, but can you tell a story of like when your players really messed something up or did something you completely didn't expect as you were managing or storytelling or DMing or whatever the adventure? Who wants to go first?
I'm trying to think of the best example, because I'm really good at freeform, and I feed off my players a lot for building my stories. Okay. So
I'll give an example, just like in terms of a general thing. Like Jess in our game is a DM for a lot of things, but he was saying whenever he goes and wants to get a puzzle and have a puzzle included in the adventure, he goes and finds like math problems, and then he looks for like math problems for second graders, because he says no matter how simple you make a puzzle, your players will manage to F it up. They'll, if you be like a star, a square, a circle, and a triangle on wooden barrels, and they'll like get on their knees and crawl around the floor of the wooden barrels as opposed to looking at the shapes, or they'll detect like they won't do anything except like move the barrels in a certain order or just touch the things that you wanted to do or turn them in a certain direction. They'll do anything but the thing you think is the most obvious to do in that moment. So that I found really funny.
One of my favorite ones was like it was like a negotiation. Basically, it was someone just getting the wrong end of the stick. That happens a lot because actually I GM almost exclusively for people who kind of like they got problems. They're like me. They're fucked up in the head. But yeah, like we're one of my favorite like one-off problems that came up was they found out that they needed to get a book, and they didn't need to get the book for any particular reason. They just needed to get the book. It's like, okay, get this book, this person, and the person was like, and they were like, okay, how much money do we have altogether? And they were like, they've got X amount of money, and they went over, and I was like, okay, how do you want to do this? And I was like, well, we'll offer to buy the book off the person. And they were like, okay, then how much money you want to offer? And they were like, whatever, X. And I went, okay, double X, X times 2, because it was a thing of barter, haggle, at which point they started screaming at the person for stepping on their rights and tried to get them arrested for embezzling them. At which point I was just kind of like, okay, that's one way of fixing it, you stupid bastards.
Okay.
They didn't see the life of Brian, did they?
No.
Okay, I have two stories. One is how a campaign got derailed almost from the complete beginning. I was doing a Forgotten Realms game, and one of the players were part of a group of mercenaries in the city of Coin, and I introduced a mechanic where the leader of their guild essentially had a pathway into the Feywilds, where they could essentially transport to any place in the planet and do jobs in those places.
Mm-hmm.
And the players decided that pathway was incredibly dangerous, and so their first mission was to destroy the guild, bury the house, and make it so no one could use the pathways. So like immediately my campaign changed from a globe-trotting mercenary guild to they were protecting the city from this existential threat, and it essentially became a game about politics in the city of Coin, from what was supposed to be like just random encounters sort of thing. Like the complete tone of the game, because they decided to not that a tool I was providing exclusively to them was too dangerous for the world.
That's good. Oh, you had two.
And the second one was a Werewolf the Apocalypse game that I was running. The players they had mostly played vampires, so essentially they wanted to play the other side of it, and their players were primarily vampire hunters.
Mm-hmm.
And they had met a group of allies, or they were meeting with a group of allies to find the vampires, because this particular group was having a really hard time, was being really good at being stealthy and covering their tracks. And they ended up like in this social encounter, just off the side of my, like they were tossing these just regular humans that didn't know anything, didn't know much, we're just going off vampire lore from movies and that. And one of them is like, yeah, look at this cool thing I got. It's supposed to kill vampires like in that Blade movie. And they like threw the guy a silver stake, and the werewolf a silver stake. He touches it. It causes pain. He has to roll a rage roll. He becomes an uncontrollable monster, kills their new allies, alerts the police, gets the entire party killed.
Just on one little thing.
Ends the campaign on what should have been the allies tossing them, and just this series of worse and worse rolls.
See, that's where the dice come in.
Yeah. You've played Vampire the Masquerade, right?
Yeah.
Like, werewolves are hard to kill. So
yeah, that just going sideways was.
It just went so bad. It's like, I don't know what to do. I guess we're just doing another game because Werewolf isn't the game for you and your dice. Because that went real bad.
All right, well, I'll share one that recently happened because our DM yelled at us after we didn't really yell at us, but sort of. So it was with a one-off on the Underdark with R&D, and we were approached in the middle of a different mission by some cultists who wanted us to come by their local church. And they were trying to convince us, oh yeah, you should come by, our services are in the evening. And someone, I don't remember who it was, if it was Christiosity or whoever, said, oh, do you have snacks? And R&D goes, yeah, sure, we have snacks. We're like, oh, okay, well, maybe we'll come over later and check out your snacks. But they were cultists, so we really had no intention of going to their service. But then we ended up on that part of town, like talking to a merchant who was literally across the road from the church. And it was a couple hours after, and it was getting close to the service time. So we thought, okay, well, we'll go into the church and check it out. And the time that we went in, there was just people worshiping or whatever, and we watched and they got kind of bored. But as we were leaving, the cultists were entering the church. And someone asked, well, do they have snacks? And R&D said, yeah, sure, they have snacks. Like, what kind of snacks? He's like, I don't have a snacks table. And he did a roll. And apparently rolled really high because apparently, and he also said to us, like, well, it said, do the snacks look good? He goes, oh, they look so good. They've got some like lobster things and they got some other things as well. And, you guys have been in the Underdark this whole time, so you've been living on rations. And we're like, damn, we want those snacks. So we waited until they went inside and set them up. And then we just beelined for the table. And he's like, okay, roll initiative. And we had the hardest battle where we ended up losing one of our characters who was kidnapped, like just taken. And he's like, I tried to give you every indication that this was a bad situation. You shouldn't be in the church when they came back. And we were like, yeah, but you tempted us with these snacks. And like, we couldn't help ourselves. And it was just yes. So it was just like one random question that turned into a bit that ended up getting one of our characters. Now he might have to roll a new character.
So this was another game. This was another. No. We just tell stories now. Nothing else. We're not leaving. Okay. The thing. One of the ones that we got is like, this wasn't in a game that I was in. It was a game like this was in like 2012 or 2011 or so, and it was in like some internet back alley somewhere. I think it was the Lord Cat Mafia, who was thus this. He was this New York YouTube. He was this New York guy who just did 24-hour streams, and I was like part of it. And he ran a game. He ran a one-shot, and he had the single worst random name generator in the world, which caused his players to non-stop demand that everybody had a name. So the first thing that you would go is kind of like, okay, this is the first session, everyone's got new characters, everyone just introduce yourselves, and you go and like they all do, and everything's great, and they go to the ship where they are going, because it's a voyage. It's a game where you're on a boat and we're all voyagers and everyone's a thing, and you see the captain in front of you, and the captain is like, okay, ready to go, and the one of the players goes, hello, my name is Katrin. What's your name? And then it's quiet. as he just kind of like turns around and he goes, "Fuck, I don't know." So he went and he got the random name generator, and it turned into, I think it was Captain Vegeta Fire Nipple for no particular reason. And yeah, that was a lovely one.
And that just started the whole, what's your name? What's your name? What's your name?
What's your name? What's your name? And like one of my players sometimes does that, like in reference to that. And so we've finally decided that anytime they do that and their name is not already established, it is the same name as their character, just to fuck with them, just to personally fuck their day.
That's funny, and actually that's a good idea. What's your... Oh, yeah, that's Elsbeth. Elsbeth? Oh, I'm called Elsbeth. That's great. Or Madame Cookery. Well, on that, this has been such a nice, relaxing conversation. Tom, next time we talk, we want to see stones. We want to see polished stones.
Yeah, I should have some by that time.
Yeah.
I will have some by that time. I don't know if I'm going to... this is my first time. I hope I'm going to be proud of them.
And I personally request, I'm sure you will be, please post pics to the group. And also next time you do a set, like do a week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, show us start to finish where you started and where they ended up, because I love polished stones. And I can't have that kind of noise in my little apartment here, so I don't think. Excellent.
Yeah, well, like you can hear, it's not terrible. It's just
constant.
If you could, it's just constant perking of a coffee percolator. So
yeah. True. All right, hey everyone, we'll stay on until we can do like our own little goodbye. But for everybody who's watching in the chat, I know I saw Rory Cat stop by. Appreciate that. And for everybody else who took time to listen to our Geek Talk, thank you. Goodbye from me and goodbye from my friends. Say goodbye, friends.
Goodbye, friends.
Hey, there you go. Squawk? That's not part of the bit.